Let's go on with federal politics now, and the Morrison government is defending its economic plan after the IMF, of course, downgraded Australia's and global growth forecasts in the last 24 hours. Political reporter Trudy McIntosh has been keeping an eye on this in Canberra. Trudy, well, what's happening? It's a dominating debate today, really, I suppose.
It certainly is. It was a real sharp downgrade of growth overnight by the IMF, and they've delivered quite the strong message for governments right around the world and back here in Australia. They argue that more needs to be done in terms of economic stimulus, that we can't simply rely on central banks to continue using monetary policy as the only lever here. Also urging the major powers to reduce trade tensions, really, because we know that that's weighing very heavily on growth around the world. If we dig into these numbers today, it's certainly not a rosy picture for Australia. Growth for the year sitting at 1.7%, which is down 0.4%. Global growth 3%, which is slightly down 0.3%. Same story for the next year. Growth for Australia down 0.5% and global growth also down. But the Treasurer today really trying to keep a positive spin on things here, arguing that the fundamentals of the Australian economy remain strong and that they're sticking with their economic plan, focusing in on those income tax cuts, arguing that that will help boost the economy, and sticking by their surplus projections for next year. That hasn't stopped Labor, though, continuing to ramp up pressure on the government to do more in terms of economic stimulus. We heard from the Labor leader today. He's echoed the words of the former Treasury Secretary back in Kevin Rudd's time, Ken Henry, saying that's the approach we should be taking.
We have circumstances whereby the government is just in drift, pretending everything's okay. When we were at the height of the global financial crisis, I'll never forget Ken Henry saying we needed to go early, go hard, go households. What this government is doing is going slowly, going soft and going nowhere when it comes to the economy.
But it's pretty clear today that the government doesn't want to follow that Rudd-style approach. We heard from the Resources Minister on your show, Chris, a short time ago, certainly slamming that proposal.
As we saw around 10 years ago now, sort of a 10-year anniversary of Kevin Rudd and Julia Gillard getting spooked by the world economy and unleashing the dogs of government spending, where we saw billions upon billions wasted of taxpayers' dollars. In the end, we had some tragic incidents with the roof bat program as well. So we are not going to do that.
So, Chris, expect to see Labor go pretty hard today in question time on the government's economic record in the wake of these figures.
Yeah, Trudy, we've been talking about the climate emergency debate as well. I guess the government are happy to say that we've got a drought emergency in this country, but this climate emergency stuff's just going to be slapped down every time it's raised, isn't it?
Well, yeah, yesterday the Greens tried to suspend standing orders in Parliament to get this climate emergency declaration voted upon. They didn't have the numbers in order to even get to that first vote. So you can certainly see why the government would consider this to be a stunt. But it'll probably continue to keep happening.